Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Game Audio Hour. This is number 53. It's our first of season 2 because we're the kind of that does 52 weeks of a season. That's kind of a bad thing for you who have to suffer through a very long season. But anyway, this is our weekly podcast where we discuss all things game audio, from creative ideas to the latest techniques, project experiences to audio secrets. Here's where you'll find in-depth coverage and opinions related to game audio. And Vince, with the mug covering his noisemaker. What are you doing over there? That game company. When do I get one of those?
Yeah, that game company. One of the many perks of working here.
Is an awesome mug.
But yeah, it's an awesome mug, and it is currently filled with my favorite thing, which is peppermint tea. I've been drinking a lot of peppermint tea lately. Helps with my throat, helps with mucus control and all that nasty stuff, because there's all sorts of nasty stuff that you come across when you're teaching students on a weekly basis. But this is doing a pretty good job.
So that's keeping the spit out of your iwi, right?
Oh, yeah. It's helping the iwi playing a whole hell of a lot.
I remember the first time I was learning about horns, I was a real young kid, and this guy just like opened this thing and emptied his saxophone. And I was I am never playing a saxophone. I'm not getting near it. Oh my God, that was disgusting.
Ooh.
With disgusting, how you doing, Alex?
Well, actually, if you're going to be talking about mucus control, now you know that you guys know that I have a 9-month-old baby daughter.
Oh yes.
So let me tell you about mucus control,
or lack thereof.
I have these amazing things in Japan. I don't know if you get them elsewhere in the world. There's a tube that you stick up the nostril of a baby and you suck, and it pulls the snot out into this little kind of holder. Do they have those in the States?
Well, we have this kind of like bulbous thing, and you squeeze it before you put it in the nose, and then you know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we call it the snot sucker. So let me tell you about mucus control.
This is oh my God! This is the opening of our show every time. It's like some disgusting ailment. Hey, or we talk about your mandarins, which happen to be gone. But I have held up your end of the bargain, Alex, because
Carl, they're not gone. They're actually just off camera over there.
No. Well, anyway, I brought my own oranges.
Okay.
Orange.
Oh, there you go. Orange amps.
Heck yeah. Sporting my favorite amp company. I do this.
I didn't know that Orange was your favorite amp company. I thought it was Vox.
I like them both. I do a stereo amp setup, and I do one Vox AC30 and one Orange Rocker Verb 50.
Oh, okay.
That's my setup. But yeah, I had to sport them because I want them to sponsor us.
So.
Also, I thought, before we introduce our guest, I thought I would say that this show is brought to you by Macallan's Fine Oak Scotch. And I realized as I was pouring it today that we would probably stand a better chance of getting sponsored by a Scotch company than an audio company with all of this drams of Scotch that are going down through our show. But anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about Patrick. Hey, Patrick, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I have also feverishly consumed 2 oranges before this show. I'm not lying about that. I actually did that. So.
Well, Alex usually keeps the supply of mandarins. I don't think that Japan has any.
Let me just see if I can.
Left.
Can you? I've got one. You can see the end of the row over there.
That table was filled.
Yeah, we had a bit of a surplus. We had like 2 boxes full of mandarins, and we had to give some to our friends because we just had too many.
A bit of a surplus is an understatement. So Patrick is joining us because we wanted to talk to him about his chiptune stuff. Everybody get to his website out here, which is, let me bring it up again, space-town.org, right?
Yeah, space-town.org.
Listen to some fantastic chiptune music, and we wanted to talk to Patrick about how you do it, what you're mixing it with. You're using kind of a Game Boy as a centerpiece, and then filling out with other instruments. Am I?
Yeah.
Let's just dig right in, man. Can you tell us some more about that?
Yeah, sure. So right now, what I have going on is the Game Boy is actually, you can use them. Let me look for one. Actually, I have one right here.
Awesome.
This is So this has no batteries in it because I'm perpetually out of batteries because they require 4 of them, which is a lot. Like that's actually a ton. And so these look altered, and they kind of are, but you don't really need to actually modify a Game Boy to use it as an instrument. The actual the program that we most people use to make chiptune is a program called Littlesound DJ. You can get it on the Littlesound DJ website for $2, and then you basically load that. You get a ROM of Littlesound DJ, and you load that into a blank flash cartridge, and then once you do that, you basically have a tracker on your Game Boy to use. So that's the main. That's what most popular chiptune people are using. Nanoloop is also an option, but it's more visual. It's more abstract. It's the artsy alternative to LSDJ. If you, yeah. So yeah, I primarily make trance music because I somehow stumbled on that. I don't know why. I just stumbled on it, and I decided to embrace the badness of trance music as opposed to run away. But yeah, that's
I love trance.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I've been.
Patrick,
sorry?
you said the magic word. Do you know what magic word he said, guys? That my ears picked up.
Tracker.
He said a magic word.
That tracker.
You know, like I figured something was up when I go on your Twitter account and like see this enormous tracker cover page.
So I think Vince and I are just going to go on mute. You guys have a nice show.
Hey, I used to be Sclat Hill back in the day. I made a lot of tracker tunes.
I am so sorry. You are exactly right. I am out of this conversation.
So I'm actually a little curious. I mean, we won't go too far down the hardcore tracker conversation route, I guess, because not all of our viewers are interested for some strange reason. But anyway,
they love it. Do it. Hardcore. What is that? We need to know.
I'm a little curious about how it actually works when you're programming a Game Boy. How many channels of sound do you have?
So for a Game Boy, all Game Boys basically have 4 channels. You have 2 pulse channels, a wave channel, and a noise channel. So yeah, so you basically get those 4, and those are just represented in the tracker straight up. And yeah, most of my Game Boys, I actually cheat a little bit. Most of my Game Boys most of my songs use 2 Game Boys synchronized with the link cable. Littlesound DJ actually allows you to synchronize you synchronize 2 copies, or actually as many copies of LSDJ as you want, with link cables. And so most of my songs use 2 Game Boys, and I use that because as much as chiptune is about embracing limitations, I really like the sound of 2 Game Boys going at once for a song, as opposed to just 1. Yeah.
So what controls do you have over the pulse? Can you adjust pulse width?
Yeah. So you get your basic envelope stuff, and then pulse width, and then that's yeah. It's mostly just like basic envelope and pulse width stuff. You can do the more interesting things happen actually in the tables for each instrument. So you can set up instruments in Littlesound DJ that can run tables whenever they play. And these tables are where a lot of the interesting things happen for a lot of chiptune musicians. I'm not actually that advanced as far as the utilizing all the different sound capabilities of Littlesound DJ goes. There are people that do some crazy, insane things with all the stuff. But yeah, table work is pretty much like the most interesting part of the pulse channels. And then the wave channel, actually, you can do some synthesis in there, some like really basic synthesis, and people actually have come up with a really optimized way to load samples into there. So you can get like a really grainy 8-bit version of whatever sample you want in Littlesound DJ.
Wow. And the noise channel you just have, it's just white noise or a pink noise or just only one setting?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much just like white noise. It's not, yeah, it's it's not like super interesting, but yeah, all the crazy stuff happens when you're doing, you know, transpositions and vibratos over white noise with tables. So yeah.
I see. Vince, have you ever done anything on a Game Boy?
No, I haven't. I've messed around a little bit with NES tracking, and NES sound capability is very similar to the Game Boy. But I've never actually messed with the Game Boy itself. I always thought it was actually really fascinating when I would see guys in a live show setting messing around with Game Boys, and especially hearing that you can link them up. I'm actually I'm imagining the 4 link.
You know,
do you know if LSDJ supports the 4 link?
Yeah, it does. You need to do a little bit of modification to the 4-way, but it totally works actually. That's actually what I'm using to so I have this strain like a MIDI synchronization device that I use to synchronize my Game Boys with Ableton. And in order for me to not need 2 of them, I just use a modded 4-way adapter. So.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah.
So how with the Game Boy, you know, the standard the chiptune arpeggiated chord. I mean, I only know chiptune. I was never really sort of never had the opportunity to get much into chiptunes because I arrived on the scene with the Commodore Amiga where it was all sampled sound. But on the Amiga, you could still in your command the command line for the tracker line, you could still specify an arpeggiated chord value, and it would arpeggiate through the chord. How do you do that with the Game Boy?
So Littlesound DJ actually has that command. There's a chord command, and so you can. It's pretty much 2 values that you can specify. But if you go into a table, you can actually specify up to 16 different values to transpose the tone. So 16. You can so you can come up with a really, really crazy arpeggio if you wanted to. Some like really, really like insane thing that yeah. So
could you tell me what the difference between a pulse wave coming out of a Game Boy is and a pulse wave, like a bit crushed pulse wave produced by a synthesizer? Is there a I guess it's all in the interests of like authenticity, really, is it? That if you're wanting to get that authentic sound, you go straight to a Game Boy?
Yeah. So what it's the tracker is using the sound chip on the Game Boy. So everything all the sound that it's generating is directly from that sound chip. And you could probably come up with a decent emulation, like I wouldn't say decent, even like just a really good emulation of that on a synthesizer. It's more the environment of a portable tracker that I can basically carry wherever I want. That's the thing that actually really interests me about. Yeah.
So what's the story behind you getting into? I mean, it's quite a long stretch from playing something on your Game Boy to say, hey, I think I might like to try and write some trance music on this. What's the story behind what led you into that?
So I hadn't really heard of chiptune until I got into college. And then I heard some various small, I had heard that people were making music on these old systems, but I never really thought about it too much until I joined the DJ club at my school, and I wanted to find like a niche of music for me to DJ. That wasn't, the typical, I guess, big room house is what the new hotness is right now. And so I was going to use chiptune as as my niche of music to DJ, but then I realized that chiptune wasn't just dance music. It was more of like an aesthetic that you applied to different genres of music. So eventually I got kind of tired of trying to learn how to transition a 80 BPM song to a 150 BPM song. And I was okay, I'm just gonna make my own stuff. So So I basically, yeah, I just found a website called 8bitcollective.org, which is unfortunately not operational anymore. Some drama went down with the webmaster, and yeah, I used that to find out like how this whole thing worked, and they led me to you know, sites to buy the ROM, buy the Littlesound DJ ROM, and then from there it was just, yeah, it was just, I just started making it, and I actually, when I was DJing, I first got into Ableton as like a way for me, oh, maybe I can make my own music. It didn't have to be chiptune music. I just decided I wanted to try Ableton as a means for just creating any music in general, but Ableton was so crazy and like advanced for me at the time, and I hadn't really used anything but Audacity at that point, and Audacity was literally just cutting and pasting things. So when I got into Ableton, it just completely overwhelmed me, and I got intimidated. And when I switched to Littlesound DJ, it was a nice self-contained package that I could kind of just take wherever I wanted to go. Because a lot of the problem I had with making music was I would have a good idea for a lead line or a melody or something, but then by the time I got back to my dorm and my computer to write it down, I had forgotten it, or there was just something lost in translation, or didn't sound as good on the computer as it did in my head. So I didn't like that. So having a portable tracker that I can just draft ideas on immediately whenever I wanted was really groundbreaking to me. So yeah, and then after that, I just started performing with people. Yeah.
So you'd never used any tracker programs prior to Littlesound DJ?
No, actually, the Littlesound DJ is my first tracker. So
interesting.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's funny how so many people, I guess, a lot of people, maybe also in our generation, Vince as well. A lot of people get into game music and get into music on computers through trackers, like back in the '90s, back in the heyday. You know, it's such a. And it's interesting as well, you know, just showing, for example, showing my 5-year-old, he looks at, because I use Renoise at the moment as my main DAW, and he looks at, you know, all the, it's just, there's so little abstraction. There's like one layer of abstraction that this letter represents this sound, and then it just goes like that. And, you know, you have a line there, and it just plays the music that's underneath the line. Whereas if you have something like Live or any of the other big DAWs, it's a huge... There's multiple layers of abstraction. You know, this long bar represents the height, represents the notes, and then that goes in there. But then this is Ableton's even worse because you've got like, this clip playing over here.
Yeah, you can represent the same bit of sound in multiple ways in Ableton, which is just like, you know, to someone who's not even used to using DAWs at that point, it's like I am totally overwhelmed. Oh, geez, I totally forgot what I was going to say, but I'll probably remember it in like in a little bit. But yeah.
Kyle, you still with us?
Oh, I'm here, buddy. I am loving this. I am. I love it. I'm doing searches while you guys are talking. So please keep going. They're way beyond my knowledge, but I love learning.
Kyle, if you had if somebody is just approaching Ableton Live for the first time, and they're looking at it and say, I have no idea what all these grid spaces means and all these little kind of play arrows, and there's like 2 views, and this one has all these lines and this one has all these boxes, and I have no idea what's going on. Where would be the first place that you would start in actually teaching somebody how to approach Ableton Live?
I would say open Ableton Live and hit your tab key. That will immediately take you to the regular DAW view that people are used to seeing with, you know, tracks across and stuff like that. Reserve that view with all the cells for later advanced techniques.
See, the thing with clip view was that was actually, when I got back into Ableton, that was the area where I thought, oh, like I know what I'm doing here because trackers, like it, I can make it work like a tracker if I want. And then, you know, the arrangement view it wasn't exactly you know, it wasn't unknown to me, but I was more comfortable in the clip view, and I still actually compose all my stuff in clip view, which is kind of a weird thing to do. I actually like lay out my lay it out like I would play it live, and then record it basically playing it live, and then do all the edits and stuff in the arrangement view afterwards. So
it's actually
that's a very good point. Go ahead.
It's actually not such an unusual approach, especially with game audio. One of the things that you hear a lot about live from the guys who use it, Kyle as well as Matt Piersall uses it, and the mighty Jack Menhorn uses it as well. One of the things that they say is, especially for when you're working with game middleware, if you're writing like a soundscape or something where you need to have all these layers of sound that can come in any arbitrary order, the clip view is extremely useful for that, because you can just basically create your layers as clips and then just trigger them to check that they all work with each other. So that's one thing that a lot of Ableton users really talk about.
Also, when you install Ableton, and I'm saying this for beginners, it comes with a bunch of demo stuff that you can investigate, and I highly recommend that. I'll get a piece of software and the manual is 10 minutes away from a trash can, because I just want to get in and get going, and I just go, I'm not going to read. I want to play. I want to get my hands dirty, not read a book before I get started. But Ableton incorporated it right into their help system when you first bring it up, and they'll say, here's step 1, do this exercise. And those exercises are really short, and they're really helpful. One thing I ran into, seems kind of dumb, but was when I was in clip view, I was trying to get the clips that were playing in succession to loop back to the top, and it wasn't immediately evident to me how to do that. And so I dug around for a little bit and right-click. This was a while ago, but I just said, well, why don't I just use this help system they've got built in? And I saw that there was an exercise that was talking about that. I watched a 10-minute exercise, and I learned so much more from that exercise than just what I was looking for. So that's actually where I would send people for Ableton, which I'm not saying like I would send people to the help manual for Pro Tools right away. I would say get your hands dirty and do these things, But for Ableton, they've just done such a great job of recognizing that we have a short kind of attention span in today's world, and so they made these really small and fast tutorials that you can walk through. And I was just looking up the hotkey for bringing that up. For some reason, I think it's F8, but I'm not able to find it right away. Maybe somebody in the chat room can say what it is. Anyway, that's where I would start, Alex.
The interesting thing about Ableton, and when I was learning this, I didn't think of going to the help area. So when I was learning it, I was basically just Googling or like searching on YouTube, how do I do things, basically. And it was tough because everyone has a different workflow for that kind of stuff. Like everyone has a completely different workflow, so it was really hard for me to kind of nail down my own process of learning. Okay, well, if I want to lay down the drum track first, then I'll do this. And then if I want to, do different things, and I'll do those different things. It was really, really confusing at first. So what Littlesound DJ did when I first started learning it was it actually pared that workflow down to just a tracker, which is easier to manage for me, at least.
You bring up a good point, something that I guess it would be kind of cool to talk about on the show. I watched this broadcast called Pensato's Place. Do you guys know what that is?
Yeah, I watched that too.
Isn't that awesome? I love Pensato's Place. So, and one day I was last week, literally, I was working in a Pro Tools session. I had this late mix, and late mixes get my mind wandering, and I started thinking, I wonder if I'm being as efficient as I can with my template for Pro Tools. And so I decided to search the next day. I wrote down in my notes the next day to search for Dave Pensato's Pro Tools template. The guy's an expert. Let's look at what he's got out there, right? He's got to share that stuff. He gives up so much information. So I went out searching and found a web page where somebody was asking the same question. And so Dave Pensato apparently hasn't shared it, but people from watching his video have started to put together what it would look like. And the first thing I saw in the forums when a guy asked, does anybody have Dave Pensato's template, was a response that said, why do you want somebody else's template? You should create your own template. You should do it your own way. You should, and the guy responded, and he said, I can't really quote him, but he made a good point about why not learn from an expert. It's not that he's not being himself by not creating his own template, but he can start from a professional's template and then over time edit that template to match his workflow. That was the point he was making. And I thought, that's a fantastic piece of advice. But ironically, the forum was filled with people who thought that person was not, being true to their own mastery. And you were just saying that, Patrick, that the first thing you did was go out to the internet and see what other people are doing. And everybody does it in different ways. And that's actually, in some ways, really good, because I've been in that situation. I just choose whichever one seems to appeal to me. And as I advance through knowing this DAW or knowing this process, I'll start to understand why people are using different workflows or what they're doing differently from that first one that I selected. I think that's great to start from that place.
Yeah, I think that there's probably two objectives in doing that. Like, sadly, there's probably there are probably people who think that by using Dave Pensado's template, you can sound like Dave Pensado. You got basically it's like having a plugin. When you're looking at, Dave Pensado uses this plugin, so I've got to use it too, then I'll sound like him.
Yeah.
There's probably a small group of people who approach looking for templates and looking for those kinds of tips with that objective that, well, it's like a subconscious urge to use the same things as somebody that you really respect or really idolize, because then you'll sound like them.
I did buy the Vincent Diamante plugin package and the Alex May plugin package.
Well, I do have the Vincent Diamante Peppermint Tea Brewer.
Oh, my God.
Here somewhere.
You brew tea like the expert.
Actually, I also have the minted Vincent Diamante Audio Technica headphones right here, which...
that is true. But that's true. But that's a very good point. Off the subject slightly, Patrick, I apologize, but please dig in where you feel you have an opinion.
Well, give me. I'm gonna take 1 minute, because I did just realize that it suddenly got dark around me, and it was that before. So I'm going to turn on a light and make myself not look as creepy right now.
No problem. No problem. So, but hardware comparison, right? So there is hardware that sounds like hardware, and sure, you could buy a Neumann TLM49 and another Neumann TLM49, and they will have a slight. But there seems that people will depend upon hardware to sound consistent more than they'll depend upon processes to be consistent. Like the way one person does side chaining compared to somebody else's, even though they're doing the same thing. They might be like, oh, I don't do side chaining that way, but I'll buy those Audio Technica. Did I say that right? Audio AT headphones. Isn't that interesting? Or is it not?
I didn't quite follow. Could you put that again a different way?
I'm just saying that we do feel when it comes to processes that no two are really going to produce the same thing.
Right.
Where you might pattern yourself by a Dave Pensado process, but you're not going to sound like Dave Pensado. But if Dave Pensado tells you to buy AT headphones and you buy those, you expect that that's going to sound exactly the same. Well, we know that hardware sounds different, even the same model.
Right. Well, it's sort of beaten into us all the time. If you look through mix or sound on sound or all those things, there's going to be, someone hawking Shure, another dude hawking, Mackeys. Everyone is hawking this and that. That's become acceptable, but their actual techniques, those are sacred realm.
Sorry, I was muted. I was muted and laughing, but I was laughing. Trust me, it's so true.
Yeah, I think going back to I was saying that there are two reasons why people would want to look up, say, the template of somebody famous, and I think the first reason is that group of people who want to sound like somebody else by using a similar setup, and I guess the second reason that you would do that is just as you said, Carly. It's really useful when you've gotten to a certain stage with a piece of software. You will have developed your own workflow in a certain direction, and you will find ways that make it easy for you to work. And it's really educational to see the other things that can be done with the software, especially in the case of something like Ableton or Reaper or Logic or these programs that are able to be. You can achieve the same thing in so many different ways.
A lot of my albums are actually just like me taking a specific technique that I've learned and like just making as many songs as I can about it or like using it because there will be this point when I release an album where I feel like I've hit the limit of what I think I can do with Littlesound DJ, and then I'll basically go like ask someone, oh, how do you make a cool kick in a noise channel, or oh, how do you come up with that really awesome delay in what is like a raw Littlesound DJ, like there's no effects, but like it sounds like a delay. How do you do that? And then I'll grab that and basically make an entire album using those techniques, and so learning new techniques wasn't. It always came to me after I felt like I'd reached the limit of what I thought I could do with a software.
Now, are there any kind of insert effects that you can do on the Game Boy? Can you put in a compressor or EQ?
No. You can. A lot of people will do that with just really, really, really intelligent envelope and really, really intelligent just volume management. And a lot of chiptune is basically like tricking the listener into thinking that they're hearing what is like a sidechain. But it really isn't. It's just like we just emulate what it sounds like to have a sidechain compressor in there. But what we're actually doing is just taking that tone and bringing up the volume every time the kick happens. So a lot of it is just emulating the techniques as opposed to like actually using them because it's a very limited hardware, so it's hard to get that stuff in. But
now I wonder if you wanted to EQ something, do you bring it out into Ableton and do some EQing there?
I didn't used to do that actually, but now I basically do all of my EQ in Ableton. I just record the track and then I just do the EQing there. So
gotcha. Have you created a rack that you really like of some of the plugins that Ableton has supplied, or is there a software that you go to for EQing like Waves or something?
I just use the default Ableton EQ. That works for me. A lot of what I like to do with EQing chiptune stuff is like a lot. It sounds really harsh and it sounds really in your face, and that's a lot of people kind of appreciate that about chiptune, and the approach I take is kind of like try and create a space between the hardware and the listener, because if you listen to a lot of chiptune music that hasn't gone through the process of EQ and compression and all that stuff, it's right up in your face. It's like listening to raw Game Boy music is just so intense, and a lot of people like that, but I didn't, so yeah.
I've got a question. I do a lot of mixing. It seems to be a very busy part of my career, which I'm really excited about. And, if I'm dealing with a pop band or a vocalist, like a solo vocalist, the vocals have to be in front. Is there something you do with your chiptunes? Is there a particular instrument that you like to pull forward? And what techniques do you use to leave that for? Like some reverb, or do you use reverb in Ableton to push things backwards to give it some space?
So a lot of people actually suggest that there'll be threads on chipmusic.org or something where people will ask, oh, how do I get a better sounding mix, or how do I make my songs sound better in general? And a lot of people say just you do the mixing in the song, you do the mixing in the arrangement, because if you can get all the levels in the Game Boy to sound interesting and sound like there is dynamic range, even though there might not be as much as if you're using Ableton or something. If you can do that, then you're already like 90% of the way to having a good sounding song. So a lot of mixing in Ableton is pretty much just emphasizing things that you've already done in Littlesound DJ. It's taking parts that you've already because when I'm composing, I do it just in Littlesound DJ, without going into Ableton at all for the beginning, and then so what I do is, yeah, if there's an instrument or a part that I really like, I just bring that up, more than I would think is necessary, and then I just kind of like, if I leave it there and basically mix it in the Game Boy before it ever comes out into a DAW at all.
Gotcha. Is there a limiter on the Game Boy so that when you're bringing up the levels, it doesn't overmodulate?
No. I'm just gonna go. I don't like. There's like so you can basically throw it in. You can record your Game Boy from the headphone jack, which. Yeah. Like the headphone jack lowers the volume, but it also introduces more, artifacts and stuff that you don't want. So a lot of people have modded their Game Boy so that they just bypass the headphone output, and they basically just have a line level output, which gives you everything raw and not as many artifacts, but it gets it can be really, really, really loud. So yeah, so you kind of learn what the Game Boy output will look like, as you keep using it, and
that makes sense. Hey, there's a question in the chat room from Matt M, and he says, Patrick, have you ever reamped the sounds coming from the Game Boy, like running through a small speaker?
I actually haven't. A lot of my music is just the Game Boy straight in. But a weird thing is that for a very, very, very long time, I would compose with the Game Boy just using the speaker as the onboard speaker, as because I didn't have access to headphones, and so I'm composing with two Game Boys, and there are parts that are supposed to go together. So what I would do is I would literally start them at the same time and then hold them up to my ear like this to get a rough sense of if it was sounding okay or not. And I very recently came into a living situation where I have enough room to actually have a setup, actually have a studio. Nice. So now I can forego that process. But yeah, it's I haven't done that specifically.
You know what I'd love to see, and it's probably already out there, is a Game Boy orchestra where there's a violin chair one line that's on one Game Boy, cello line one on another, trumpet on another, and everybody starts at the same time. Is that something that already exists?
I'm sure it is. That's what YouTube is for, Kyle.
Yeah.
But that would be so cool to see, right?
Ridiculous, pointless stuff like that is what YouTube is for.
And then what we need is a lot of guys with big bushy beards and bow ties go to that presentation and watch that show.
It sounds familiar. There's pieces by Tristen Perich or something. Tristen. One-bit Symphony.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that stuff, and then a lot of what one of my friends, Matt Payne in the Mineral Kingdom, does is chiptune with Game Boy with a lot of brass and woodwind instruments and stuff like that.
Nice.
So his stuff is really good. The trend in chiptune now seems to be kind of emulating what Anamanaguchi does, which is Game Boys and then guitar and drum, basically just integrating the Game Boy into an already existing rock band setup. But yeah, the Mineral Kingdom does all sorts of weird things, and for some reason every time there's a show where he's at, he always ends up on stage with a trombone or something playing along to whoever's on there. They always invite him up, and he just always seems to have a trombone with him. So
that's awesome. Is he in San Francisco?
Yeah, I think he's in the Bay Area. He may have moved recently, but yeah, he's based out of the Bay Area, I think. So
give him a call and ask him if he'll be on our live show at GDC.
Yeah, I'll definitely.
just connect with him. Oh man, I'm being ridiculous, but that does bring me to a point. hey guys, we're going to do a live show at GDC. Everybody clap. Not that we're close to the show, but Patrick, man, if you'd be there, that'd be so awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
But I want to do this announcement really quickly. We'll do some business really quickly. So we're going to do a live show Friday night, well, Friday late afternoon at 4 p.m. While we're at GDC. There's a chance it might be someplace, but I haven't gotten confirmation yet. So keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook. That's Game Audio Hour on Twitter and Game Audio Hour on Facebook. And we will be announcing it heavily to make sure everybody knows. I think that we're all just... that'll be like the first time that we've all been in the same room together, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's Friday... Friday...
Or the 6th.
Friday 6th. Let's put it right down in here. Friday... We're going to put it in the chat room so everybody can... Friday 6th, 4 p.m.
We're getting a golf clap from Chase. Is that good or bad? Because golf clap is very ironic sometimes.
Golf clap, is that kind of like a slow clap?
Yeah.
He's got the exclamation point there, so I'm going to say it's cool.
Okay, it's cool. But Chase, we're watching you. You're on the edge. You got to cut back, man. You got to pull it back. Be more supportive.
Chase is he's a cheeky one, isn't he? The old Chase. Anyway, so Friday 6 at 4 o'clock, and everybody keep your eyes out and your ears out for.
Yep.
I think that on the roster we have Matt Piersall, the mighty, legendary Matt Piersall. We have even Ian Stocker, which is fantastic because Ian originally wasn't able to come, but it's fantastic. We've got Carl Johnson, the mighty Carl Johnson. We have the legendary galactic Vincent Diamante from another planet.
The planet of Diamantes.
And we have the world-renowned Mike Shapiro. Mr. Orchestra, Mike Shapiro.
And world-traveling, world-famous Alex.
Yeah, I expect extra back rubs, guys, because I'm coming a long way for this.
I am going to snuggle with you hard, as they say.
I'm gonna be setting out, and just after this show, I'm gonna walk along the seabed to get there.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna just put on heavy shoes and just wade my way through the sea to get there. I'd climb out of the bay in San Francisco. I'm here, guys.
Like Godzilla, just on San Francisco.
I brought mandarins for you.
Oh, thank you.
Also, just to let everyone know, I also reached out to the mighty Jack Menhorn, who was instrumental in the early days of the Game Audio Hour, he is going to be consulting his schedule. Jack Menhorn is, as we all know, an extremely, extremely popular, well-known person. So he's got a lot of engagements all over the week. So he may not be able to make it, but he's going to check his schedule.
I just want to look through his blue glasses. I want to wear those blue shades he's always got on. See what the world looks like from the Menhorn style.
Yeah, and hopefully, let's have a look in the chat room. So Sean LaVale from the chat room is going to be there. Chase better be there. He better be there.
After that golf clap, he better.
I don't even know what Chase looks like. I think
he's got a picture. He's got a
question. I Compose brought up a question. Is it for non-GDC pass owners?
That is a great question.
In other words, we were actually going to do it inside the facility at GDC, but one of us did not get a GDC pass, so we are doing it outside.
Who would that be?
It rhymes. The last name rhymes with May. I don't know.
It's Michael Bay. Michael Bay, not me. It's Michael Bay.
He walked out when I asked him. He just got up and left. I don't know where he went.
It could be Derek May or maybe Brian May. You know, I come from a. I
think it's fair to say that Brian May did not buy a GDC pass.
You think so?
So I want to spend a little moment showing you guys what has been on my television all weekend. Oh, don't get excited.
What?
Wow, what?
Sorry, really?
What is that?
Rotary encoder?
Did Vince just say, really?
Who needs analog sticks when you have rotary encoders?
Oh yeah, that's what I should turn this into some sort of MIDI controller with the. Oh, they're not they're limited.
They're just pots?
Stop.
Oh, okay.
They're just pots. This is the APF TV Fun. Don't forget, it's TV Fun. It's not TV kind of lame or TV average. It's TV Fun Pong game from Montgomery Ward's that I had as a kid. And we've been having a little bit of a competition lately. It's been super fun. And I thought to myself, I wonder if there's a Pong sound emulator out there, or should I run through this thing somehow to get it to make some chip tunes?
Yeah, I think I'd just
that'd be
send it over to
cool.
Patrick and get him to like rig it for you. You put some RCAs on the top.
You are
Yeah.
absolutely reading my mind. I need Patrick RCA's on this APF TV Fun. I want to make sure I say this. In case you're still looking, it might be apftvfun.com, but that website is from the 70s. I'm not sure it's still up.
Patrick, I noticed that they were actually classy gold-plated RCAs on the top.
Yeah,
of your,
yeah. So the guy
that
that did that for me is like super. He's very professional, but he moved. He lives in Taiwan now, so shipping things is gonna be tough for him from there. So
you didn't do it. You didn't do it yourself. You see, I had this news that you did it yourself.
no, I didn't do it myself. Yeah, I'm scared of like opening these things up and like ruining the things that I've spent money on.
Oh, I'm
actually
send them to me. I'm not afraid. I don't guarantee you'll get them back working, but I'm not afraid to open them.
I wanted to just step back through the conversation topics because Patrick raised a point that was really, really interesting to me about mixing in the arrangement. That is one thing that working with a tracker for a long time really, really teaches you thoroughly, and I think it's something that people who work in traditional and more mainstream DAWs should also take heed of if they aren't already. That mixing with arrangement is incredibly, incredibly useful, essential, I would say as well. The reason that a tracker makes it easier, just for people who don't know, is because in a tracker, because there's so little abstraction to it, you see everything that's happening in your song on one long line, basically. So you can see your drums are right here going like that. You can see that, well, if I want to have my bass cut through these loud drums, just don't put them on the same line where the drums are. Put them somewhere else other than where the drums are, and then they'll cut through because they're not playing at the same time. And so that's only a simple example, but it's the same case when you're dealing with harmonic progressions and things like that. It's so much easier to arrange things so that everything has a space in the music just by using the arrangement when using a tracker. So it makes it a little bit difficult when using a traditional DAW because your music data exists in different clips, and most of the modern DAWs will allow you to view multiple clips at the same time, but still, if you have a very large complex arrangement, it gets very unwieldy having like all of these bars all over your piano roll. So that's one thing. At least if it doesn't need to be visual, but at least when you're building music and from auditory point of view, it's really useful to be listening for spaces in the music to help cue timing and things like that, so that it makes the mixing job a whole lot easier.
Yeah, I would agree. Whenever I talk to mixing engineers, I haven't talked to a mixing engineer yet that didn't appreciate receiving the tracks from the recording engineer. And the recording engineer was so good at the recording process, and the song also was written so well to have space that the mixing engineer's job was simplified. So if you can capture that at the beginning of the process, you're going to get a better output from the mixing engineer, mastering engineer afterwards. And that's very important to hear the music, find the spaces, and also, don't be afraid for silence. I was listening to some Led Zeppelin today, and there's a couple of songs I was listening to, and I noticed that they would just stop playing, and the drums would carry that beat through, and then they'd play again, and then they would stop that phrase, and the drums would continue, and they'd pick it up again. And in today's music, it's just filled with sound. Even though the drums are playing, it's just something is happening on top of that the whole time. I thought, wow, that's really a technique that is starting to be a lost technique, actually.
It's probably because mixing is such an advanced art form now, and there's so many fantastic tools that to aid the process. Basically, if we're going for separation, so the song has separation of all the separate components in it, so that you can hear everything with clarity. There are so many other ways now to achieve separation without even using arrangement. You could arbitrarily have multiple different kinds of musical sounds, lump them together, and to a certain degree, of course, you can achieve separation with so many different tools and techniques these days. So, I don't know that that mixing via arrangement is, I don't know that we could call it like a lost art form, but certainly it's undervalued, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. What's next, guys? We got time.
I think we lost Vincent, or he's asleep. I'm not sure.
Oh, did we lose him?
Vincent,
Oh, yeah. I think. Oh, we did kind of lose him, didn't we? Huh.
He's back in the chat room. I think he must have hiccuped.
Oh, man, poor guy. So, Patrick, you're also into game design, man. Do you want to touch on that before we run out of time?
Oh yeah, sure. So yeah, that's also something I do. I've always been interested in, rhythm games and music games in general, and just like the interesting progression of them throughout the years, and yeah, that's like my project right now that I'm working on doesn't currently deal with that, but a lot of I have a lot I've been doing a lot of drafting of design ideas that incorporate rhythm and music into like as game mechanics and into the game basically.
Nice. So would you is one of the future games we can expect from Patrick to be a rhythm game that's
yeah, probably
some kind of fantasy aesthetic?
Yeah.
Well, I hold a love in my heart for rhythm games. I have no idea why, but they're some of my favorites. I'm surprised Alex isn't speaking up. He's just quietly staring at something. Let's all stare at Alex.
Yeah, I'm actually I have a desktop wallpaper of a Star Destroyer, and I'm just kind of looking at that. Yeah. No, actually, rhythm games. No, I don't. To be honest, I think because I'd never really gotten into rhythm games for some reason. I think because a tracker is basically a rhythm game, so.
Well, actually, when I was in my undergrad at UCSD, I was talking with this guy, Jeremy Douglas, and Daniel Wren, who is now heading up the LA Game Space, and we had this interesting just discussion about rhythm games and how a lot of rhythm games don't actually have anything to do with music. It's like you're getting into the rhythm of the actions that you're performing as opposed to the rhythm of the music, and separating those two as components leads to some really interesting things. I've always heard a lot of fighting games compare performing a really complex combo or they compare it to just hitting a rhythmic thing, because you have this timing where you have to hit all the buttons as fast as you can, and then there's like a link that you have to do where you have to hit a perfect timing. So a lot of fighting games have this built-in rhythm to them, even though it's not necessarily tied to music. Yeah, that maybe that's one way to get you to try. I don't know to try you'd be more into them. I'm not.
I do that on combinations of old games. I would hear the rhythm that I had to do to perform it. Like for instance, in Street Fighter, if you wanted, who was the guy in the uniform, the red uniform, and he would do a tornado sideways across the screen? What was his name?
Ken?
Bison.
It depends on your country. I think in the States
Dictator.
It was Bison, right?
Yeah, it was the dictator guy.
in Japan.
One.
Yeah. You had to do a move with the joystick and the buttons, and it was like a bap, rhythm, and it would happen every time. And I used to do really well with him because I memorized that rhythm, and I just pull it off. And it's absolutely about rhythms. I mean, absolutely.
Kyle, you were waving your arms about just a moment ago. Did you have something you wanted to say? We have 4 minutes.
You said you don't like rhythm games. That means you and I cannot be friends.
Oh, I see. But
no biggie.
I like King Crimson.
Let's talk about King Crimson.
Vince is leaving.
He already left once. I don't know what he said before.
Oh man.
No more Fripp.
Oh man, I know. I can't do it. So Bison, thank you guys, and thank you, Patrick. Absolutely right. Well, let's call it here. Let's do our business. Patrick, thank you so much for being on the show and teaching us about this. This is amazingly fascinating, and I can't wait to see that orchestra you build from the San Francisco Symphony. That's going to be amazing.
Give me a couple years. I need I need some time.
You also need about 72 more Game Boys.
Yeah. I think
we'll take half
room
that.
in the butt.
That's true. I guess 62 60. What is the typical 63? 64?
60's pretty good.
Yeah.
Where's Mike when we need him? That's a mic question. That's a mic question.
Hey, we didn't talk about Logic. Dang it! I meant to talk about Logic.
We keep on using Logic 10.1 because Mike won't let us talk about it until he's on the show.
Yeah.
I guess that might be something we can talk to him about next. Is it next week? No. What day is today?
Well, yeah, next week. But
so I should just let everybody know I will not, unfortunately, be able to attend next week's show because I'll be in San Francisco without probably I'm staying in a nice low-budget hotel in Chinatown where there's no stable internet connection. Yes. Yes.
Well, next week is the 2nd. It is the next week is GDC, and to tell you the truth, guys, I'm not so sure we'll have a show on that Monday because we're going to be doing a show on Friday, and because we're going to be doing a show on Friday, and some of us will be traveling back on Monday, we might not have a show after that. I'm going to check with the guys and make sure, see who's interested, who can be there. If so, we will have a show before GDC. I don't think we'll have a show on the 9th, which is after GDC. But with that said, I will update Twitter ASAP upon that information. But right now, don't plan on a show on the 2nd or the 9th, but we will be doing a live show on the 6th, and we will be announcing the location very shortly. Please come, one and all. We're going to have a massive get-together, and wherever we go, it's going to just be lots of fun and hugs and talking about really cool game audio stuff. I can't wait to see everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll be there.
Awesome. So with that being said, please like us on, which one do you like on? Facebook. Please follow us on Twitter, and please subscribe to us on YouTube. And you can find everything that you want to know at GameAudioHour.com. And man, do I love seeing those emails. I keep getting emails about everything from like your RSS feed I think is broken to that's a true statement.
RSS.
I just got that one and I was like, oh man, it's broken. So I searched and I was like, wait a minute, it's not broken, but we haven't updated since episode 39. So the person was like, well, I just assumed it was broken because you're up to 52 episodes and you stopped at 39. No, we need to edit some more of those videos and push them out to the server. The guy who Brian Estabrooks does our video stuff for us for free. When he has time, he does all our videos in batch. He edits them, makes sure that he lines up the video with the audio, and as you can see, it glitches out from time to time on Hangouts, and he tries to fix all that. So he puts amazing effort into these videos, and then he mass updates a bunch of them in batches. So we're a little bit behind, I apologize, but we are catching up. But more importantly than that, come find us at GDC. I was going to say I'll buy you a drink, but I'm not doing that. I'm not that dumb. I know how many people will show up for that free drink. I'm not doing it.
400,000.
There's all the. There's so many people sponsoring drinks over there at GDC, anyways.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. So, where are we staying? If you get bored and you want to find us, hit me up at kyle@moontechstudios.com. I will make sure to connect with you because my schedule at GDC is rather light. I'm really happy. It's my vacation time. I'm just going to have some fun seeing people and have a couple meetings. So let me know
Kyle,
if you want to get together.
Are you going to that Tuesday night Game Audio Denizens party? Because I'm going to be going to that too, so we might see each other there, I guess.
Then yes, I'm going. Let me know where that is because I have actually, on purpose, ignored all of the parties that are going on. I'm just going to literally walk around and go, hey, where are you guys going? And then go, okay, I'm going with them. I'm so excited to do that.
That's one thing a better way to do it, actually. That's like, you know, instead of like getting all upset that you couldn't get into Wild Rumpus or anything, just like follow people. Maybe they'll do that.
I'm super excited. And you know, the one thing I don't know if I'm more excited, I said this on Twitter, to go to GDC and just see all the friends, or to go to the House of Nanking, because man, do I love that restaurant. You know what I'm talking about, don't you, Patrick?
Yep.
All right,
yeah,
guys.
yeah.
Patrick, for being on the show. Everybody, thank you for watching. Chatties, thank you for contributing. And we will see you at GDC.
Hey.